This summer, I'll get into season previews and next year's rosters and all that stuff. I can't do that this year at this time because we haven't gone through draft, free agency, and all that other stuff. The Islanders, I'm going to look at right here because it looks like Garth Snow's coming back next year, and I'm not sure why. There's a video on this channel where I talk about Garth Snow, and I critique everything he's done, and I agree that there were more good moves than bad. But regarding what's happened this season, I don't understand why he's coming back. And I'll get into that when we take a look at this. Garth Snow came out and said he believes that the Islanders are really close to playing for a Stanley Cup. That's vague. Close to playing in the playoffs or close to being a contender? And it seemed like in the tone that he believes they're close to being a contender. He's been a GM of this team for a very long time. They haven't made the strides they were supposed to, and the big number is Tavares' number. What does he get? Now, right now, if the cap goes up to $80 million, which is the round figure that everybody seems to agree on, with what they have signed coming back, they have $33.25 million in cap space to work with. That's awesome. The best free agent, they should go out and get him. His name is John Tavares, and they need him. You look at the contracts they have. Next year, Jordan Eberle comes up. He's making $6 million. He's up next year. Andrew Ladd, $5.5 million until 2022-2023. I thought that was a lot of money when it was signed, and it still is. Anders Lee is up for renegotiation starting in July. Makes $3.75 million. He's going to get a raise on that. He's a 40-goal scorer. Clutterbuck, $3.5 million until 2021-2022. Casey Zizekas, $3.35 million until 2020-2021. Paying role players like Clutterbuck and Zizekas $3.5 and $3.35 million. I understand it. It's because of what these guys bring to the team, but I can't help feeling that you probably could pay roughly half of that and have bottom six guys who do what these guys do. Josh Bailey just re-upped for $5 million a year till 2023-2024. Considering the numbers Bailey put up this year, that's fantastic, but it's a career year. Josh Bailey would top my list of guys who I think probably take a dive next year for their numbers, only because Josh Bailey had never done it before this year. Not like this. This was something different. Brock Nelson's a restricted free agent, goes to arbitration. That'll lead into that $33 million. Tavares, if he leaves... Oh, it frees up a lot of money, but if they're going to bring him back, I got to think it's going to be $11 million plus. Has to be. And I don't know that Tavares is going to stay. I haven't heard a definitive comment. And the thing is, if Tavares leaves, that's Garth Snow's failure. When Tavares was drafted first overall, and I'm pretty sure it was 2009, the idea was, here's our franchise guy, we will build around him. This is the guy, this is the number one pick. This is it. We're on our way up. And now what are we being told? Well, Tavares, we're going to do everything to bring him back. But hey, how about that Barzell guy? Yeah, it's all over again. It's the same thing again. Here's our guy. Oh, we won't build a great team, though. And you're supposed to be trying to build a great team. Beauvillier is up at the end of next year. He's a restricted free agent. Barzell has 2 more years, of course, on his entry-level contract before he's up. Prince is a restricted free agent, arbitration as well. And, of course, not all restricted free agents are eligible for arbitration. Basically, it means that if you and the team don't agree, it goes before an arbitrator, and the arbitrator decides what the guy gets. It's dangerous. It's dangerous because the team may end up paying a lot more for the guy than they want to, and in the arbitration process, basically it's like a court hearing where you're saying, I think he's worth this. He's answering with, I think I'm worth this, and you're making arguments about why you believe that. So for the team, you're kind of devaluing your player right to his face. For the player, you're kind of arguing why you're better than what your employer thinks that you are to his face. It's not a fun process. And last year we saw, there was hardly anything went to arbitration last year or the year before. So what it does, though, is it does tend to drive up values just a little bit. Johnson's also arbitration eligible, so is Quine down here. Wagner's a UFA. So they brought in Wagner, and Wagner's a UFA. Now, if you look at the blue line, here's where I think their major problem is. Boychuk makes $6 million till 2021-2022. You'll notice I got a red circle next to Boychuk, Bailey, and Ladd. Those are long contracts. And while Bailey looks like a huge bargain right now, I don't know how long he'll be a bargain. And Boychuk is not a bargain right now. Boychuk, to me anyways, when I see Boychuk play now, he's kind of a shadow of his former self. Maybe there were injuries bothering him this year. I don't know. Nick Leddy at $5.5 million till the exact same time, 2021-2022, and they will both go UFA. That's a really good cap hit for Leddy, which kind of makes up for Boychuk probably getting paid more money than he's worth at this stage of his career. Johnny Boychuk and Nick Leddy came in from Chicago and Boston, respectively. They had cap problems. And the Islanders got them, and it seemed like it was a great deal at the time on both. I will say this as a Boston fan. Brandon Carlo is one of the draft picks that the Boston Bruins got for Johnny Boychuk. Thank you, Islanders. I can honestly say thank you, Islanders, now. And 2 years ago, I railed against that trade. No, it sucks, and Boychuk's awesome, but yeah, at this stage, that's one where I was happy to be wrong. DeHaan's a UFA, Hickey's a UFA. If they re-sign it with the Islanders, that cap space gets eaten away again. It looks like a ton of money until you realize they got to put a whole team on the ice. Pellich, $1.6 million until 2021, when he'll be arbitration eligible. Brandon Davidson, who might have been the most upset guy on trade deadline. At the time he went from the Oilers to the Islanders were in the thick of it. They weren't in the thick of it by the end of the year, and I'm not sure Brandon Davidson's interested in staying there long term. It'll be very interesting to see how that one goes, too. If Davidson says, you know what, trade my rights somewhere, I really don't want to come back here. Seidenberg's a UFA. They got to replace him. Pulak's RFA. He's going to get a raise. Mayfield, $1.45 million, 2022-2023. So, if you're playing along at home, that's 1, that's 2, 3, 4 defensemen for sure coming back next year. I'll say Pulak stays and DeHaan. So there's your top 6. Just throwing that out there. If Hickey sticks around, awesome. I don't know that they keep Davidson, and I think Seidenberg leaves. But here's the problem, and here's the major issue. Boychuk, Leddy, DeHaan, Pellich, Pulak, and Mayfield. That's about right. That's the same defense that we've been sort of talking about how they need to fix it. And if they come back with that defense again next year, there's going to be problems. We'll get into their prospects in a minute, but their defense is the major issue. But if you take Tavares out of that offense, then offense kind of becomes an issue too. Can't just say, oh, well, if Tavares leaves, that's fine. Nope. Halak is a UFA, which leaves Grice as the only goaltender with a contract because Chris Gibson's a UFA too. Now, they can re-sign Gibson. That, again, will eat into that total. Grice, $3.3 million until 2019-2020 when he's UFA, so he's got 2 more years. And I'm not sure what they do. Now, if you want to look at it from a point of view of, well, what about their prospects? Okie dokie. Josh Hosang, Kiefer Bellows, Sebastian Aho, Ilya Sorokin, Linus Soderstrom. The interesting one here, of course, is Hosang, and I'll address Josh Hosang here. Josh Hosang came out, and he has not been impressed with the way he's been handled by the Islanders organization. I will say this. I wasn't that impressed with Hosang when I saw him play. Now, I understand it's all about ice time, and it's about opportunities, and I agree that if Josh Hosang got moved, he could have a Nino Niederreiter kind of turnaround, and we could be talking a couple years from now about Josh Hosang in the same terms. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Kiefer Bellows. Is Kiefer Bellows going to end up jumping onto the team, or what? Sebastian Aho, no relation to the Carolina player of the exact same name, just to make things confusing. He played towards the end of the year. Does he get a regular spot going forward, or does he need more time in the AHL? In net, Sorokin, Soderstrom, no matter which way you look at it, Islanders fans are excited about both prospects. There seems to be a little more excitement regarding Sorokin, but Soderstrom looks like he could be a keeper too. The problem is, You don't want to go with two young goaltenders. So let's just say they both played, and that's not going to happen. But let's just say they both did. That's a recipe for potential disaster with a team that already, if Tavares leaves, would have probably a bit of a vacuum for the leadership. The weird part to me is that they're keeping a GM that's had over a decade to fix this. Garth Snow's been there forever. He had all this time to fix it. So, to me, I think Tavares staying has to be number one priority, and I would imagine that the Islanders are working hard at that. The problem is, I haven't seen anything in the news or rumors about Tavares being close, and yet, I don't like rumors, because Kovalchuk came out this morning and said, I haven't even talked to a team yet. I don't know where these Rangers rumors are coming from. Which is why I don't like reporting on rumors. I don't like it at all. So maybe Tavares is hard at work with a new contract, or at a new contract with Garth Snow. But the fact that Snow and Waite probably stay, you can point to the Colorado Avalanche and say, well, look, you leave things the same and just have faith in the guys at the top. But I don't know that this team's any further along now than they were in 2009 when they brought in Tavares. And if they are, it's not by much. For all the talk about the Eberle for Strome trade being awesome for the Islanders, and it was, the fact is they both missed the playoffs. Both the Islanders and the Oilers. So I guess my issue is this. I don't look at this team and say, oh, well, they're not necessarily good enough, because you can make a first line with Barzal, Eberle. You can have Lee. I don't want to put Ladd in there. I'll leave Ladd out for a second. Bailey, Nelson. Yeah, I'll put Ladd in last second. So if you have a top six of Eberle, Ladd, Lee, Bailey, Nelson, Barzal, that's passable. But again, where's that spark that's going to turn this team into a contender? I guess what I'm taking issue with too is Garth Snow saying that they're close to playing for a Stanley Cup. I just don't see it. Now, maybe they go out in the offseason and pick somebody up, but is anybody they're going to pick up replace Tavares if Tavares leaves? These guys can score. With Tavares, this team had fantastic offense. One of the best offenses in the league. It's this side of the board that was an issue this season. Sometimes goaltending, sometimes defense, but always one of or both of them. And your GM's a goaltender. That's the baffling part. You've got Garth Snow and Ron Hextall, who are both goaltenders, and as GMs, they've both struggled to find that exact goaltender that they need. And in the case of the Islanders, it's been going on since the Rick DiPietro issue. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see when we get around to July and I start doing season previews where the Islanders have themselves then. Are we going to be talking about the Islanders and saying, well, they look like they'll be 8th in the Metro? Or are we going to be looking and saying, well, Tavares is going to be back. They'll be in Belmont soon enough. And they're going to play games at Nassau. This is going to be a great story. They'll have tons of cap space. Or maybe they've used that cap space to pick up somebody else. Do they find a way to keep DeHaan, Hickey, everybody? Do they bring everybody back? Because part of the problem when you have a losing team and you bring everybody back and you bring back the GM and the coach is you're still a losing team. That's the danger. So again, if you're an Islanders fan, let me know your thoughts on who you're excited about. Like, does Ho-Sang get his shot next year, or did him beacon off mean that he gets traded at the draft? Did the Islanders try to get something back of value for Josh Ho-Sang? And what is his value right now? Are there teams willing to take him on, or is every team going to look at him and go, you know what, he's got an attitude problem and we don't want him? Which is why he slipped in the draft in the first place, was because of his perceived attitude. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And for Islanders fans, I'm sorry. I agree. Garth Snow probably should have been the first one to go. And from all indications right now, it sounds like he's not going anywhere. We are in this strange holding pattern where teams that have lost this year have decided, you know what? We're good with this. We're going to leave things exactly the way they are because that if we keep doing it the exact same way, somehow it'll repair itself. I can't understand that. But hey, you know, this is the league right now. This is where we're at. And let me know your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.